It's hasn't been this way in about 4 years, and we're limiting out pretty quick. So it's been really really nice. Water quality has been really good, so nice and clear. Um, and it really hasn't been out busy out there. I'm kind of surprised, and I don't know if it's because we've had such bad years. Everybody's going either north to Steinhatchee or even south to Pasco County, but we don't have as many boats as normally we would see out there, which isn't a bad thing. Um, I'm hoping this year the harvesting is going to be light enough to where this can continue on down the line for a few more years. Because even though Pasco County down Hernando area, they tend to seed every once in a while. Crystal River never seeds. It's all natural. So whatever happens out there happens. So hopefully it's been pretty good, and it's been about 3 to 4 foot of water for the most part. I know last year, if you wanted to get any scallops, I mean, you were having to do some snorkeling in 10 to 15 feet at times. So
Yeah, the average
and
person has a real hard time doing that.
And those are a little bit more teeth involved out there with the shark in that depth of water. But about the 3 or 4 feet, we don't have those issues, and so it's been pretty good, been pretty steady. So hopefully this lasts a while. I do know that most of the scallops are good sizes. Down as we get later in the season into late August and September, the scallops will get a little bigger. I tend to like to go at that time of year for my scallops, because the scallops tend to get nice in size and a little more chunks in those shells. So it's pretty good.
Now, one of the things when you said that there weren't as many boats this year, I noticed that when we were filming in Boca Grande in June, that here it was, we were there on a Wednesday and a Thursday in the main channel, drifting. And normally there'd be 40, 50 boats in that channel in June. I mean, it's Wednesday, we had 8 boats, and the boat I was in with Jeff Hagman, that was a total of 9 boats. And the next day, we had about 18 boats total. I mean, it was down 50% or better. And I think from some of the stuff that I heard is a lot of the people from up north, now maybe that isn't what's happening in your market. A lot of people that come down to Boca Grande, a lot of these companies that were coming down and bringing a bunch of their clients for 2 or 3 days, they were booking 10, 15, 20 boats or whatever. Because so many hotels got kind of destroyed and everything else. I think a lot of them just decided this year to pass up on Boca Grande.
Yeah, well, and that may be an issue as well, because I do know, the hurricanes came through for past 2 years here, kind of messed up scalloping as it was. We had a lot of flooding, and a lot of times after the hurricanes come through and do some damage, people tend to stay away. They'll book their vacation somewhere else in Florida just to allow that time for everybody to, kind of recoup from the hurricanes. But I mean, I can tell you, Crystal River, we're up and running. We have no issues here at all. So, I think we'll probably just get a steadier stream of people instead of just one big influx at one time, which is going to be better for all around anyway. Just keeping that season going a little longer, especially for tourism and the charter captains and some of the local businesses around here. So it's not bad if it's steady consistently, then hey, that's a good season too.
These people, I hope they understand is that, that they don't take advantage of it, of situations, because like we were down in Pine Island and we were filming down there, we stayed over there. Some of the, a lot of the restaurants got destroyed. There's more that opened up. Yes, a lot of the places to stay was gone, but just the year before the hurricane, some of the places that we go down there every year that we were eating for $12 to $15 a meal. Because remember, these places aren't the fanciest things in the world. They're more like mom and pop top places, and the food was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked. And this year, here we were in June, and for stuff that we were paying $12 to $14 a year ago, you couldn't find anything. Everything was $26 to $35, $40 a plate.
Yeah.
So it was almost 40% higher, 50% higher than it was a year ago. And I think, well, they're probably figuring, well, there's less places to eat, so they're going to have to come here so we can jack up the price. And maybe that's not the case, because I don't think the cost of everything has gone up, but not that much. You know what I mean?
No. I think for the most part, most of the restaurants and the hotels, everything, I think the prices have pretty much stayed steady. Just your normal increase as inflation goes. But yeah, everything seems to be about the right same prices that we had. I don't know. I think it's just the problem that we've had 2 years of hurricanes, and people tend to stay away from those at
Oh,
times.
they get scared. They see all this stuff in the
Mhm.
news that two hurricanes came through, all this devastation.
Yeah, we're all
Well,
flooded and we're swimming. There's no hotels, but yeah, I mean, there's still some areas that are require some work or whatever. But for the most part, everything's up and running and no issues. I think we were up here in Crystal River with that flood. Probably within 3 or 4 months, most of the businesses were back up and running, ready to go. So,
well, I
um,
know in Pine Island that was tough. I mean, because there
yeah.
was only one bridge to get in and out, and that bridge got destroyed. So
Well,
I know that my buddy, friend of mine that lives on Pine Island, he could not go to his house for 6 weeks because you couldn't get on the island. It was
no, and
closed.
that's the difference from a little farther south than up here. Up here with the Nature Coast, we don't have any buildings on our waterways, pretty much, other than houses along the riverfronts in Homosassa, Crystal River, and Withlacoochee. But for the most part, out there, it's all mangrove. So we get a lot of that protection, and that's what it's there for, to protect the waterways, protect the land, the mangroves, and the natural land out there. So it's a little different here where we could recoup a little faster because we don't have a lot of our buildings right on the waterway, which gets washed away from the wave action that happens out there. So we tend to survive a little bit better here, and recoup a little faster. So that's what I like about the Nature Coast. It's just
And let's
beautiful
keep
out
our
there.
fingers crossed that we have no more storms this year.
I know. I know.
I mean, I think we
There's
got our share last year. You know,
yeah. Yeah, we're done. We've had two in a row here, floods, and we're good. We don't need any more. Um, but yeah, I think this one that's coming through is probably just going to be another rainmaker, which is not bad. We've been dry for a past week or two. So nice little rainmaker, and let it move on. Be somebody else's problem.
and we got Scotty Rowe is watching, and hope maybe Scotty can just text us, send us a thing on the Facebook about how does he see his business down there as far as outsiders. I mean, local business is not going to change because they're local, but I think most of the business in Boca Grande comes from outside the areas, from companies bringing their people down, their clients. So I don't know how that affected Scotty Rowe's business, because I think he deals a lot with the locals. He's been there so long. He's one of the best around. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you got a lot of people that they said they got great names, and then you got somebody like Scotty Rowe that is a low key guy, but he's great. He knows his stuff. He's been fishing that waters for 25, 27, 28 years or better.
Mm-hmm.
And but he just doesn't make a big fuss about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you seeing Jim Pace's note? Is
Yeah,
that
I
on
did.
there?
I was looking at that, big scallops in Pasco. Hey, Jim. But
This is,
yeah, his main office is in Crystal River, and he's been super busy. Now, I will say it's been busy, but out there on the waterway where the scallop grounds are, and it may be just because we were out there 3 times. I was out there the first week actually, July 3rd and 4th and 5th. There was quite a bit of boats, but it's a holiday. You kind of expect that. But then the following week when we were out there was a lot of boats, but they were spread out a little bit more. So it may have been more of a perception than anything. But I've been out there at times where you're almost, people are boat to boat half the time. And it may just be the fact that we've got a lot more scallops this year. People are kind of separated a little bit more, so it doesn't look as bad. But it's still busy, and it's still good. I mean, the local businesses around here enjoy it all, but yeah, it's just been a good season. I did see
I'm,
another one here for when the
I'm,
scalloping
I'm,
is good. Well, and that's part of my fishing report. Yeah, when the scalloping's good, there's two things that we do. It's either inshore for redfish. You know, can't really keep snook. There are some around. You can catch them if you want, but a lot of times we'll go in for the redfish, and then as soon as we get those, we're off out into the reefs, out to the rocks and everything out there in the 3 to 5 to 9 miles out. That's pretty much where you're going to go. Because one thing I did notice out there scalloping, when you're reaching down to those scallops, just when these guys are down below near the grass, that water is really, really warm right down there, which is weird. Um, so that oxygen level is kind of dropping a little bit in the shallower waters, because that water is almost 5 degrees warmer right down there at the grass base than it is up top. So those fish on the inshore, it's best to just go in their mornings or in the evenings. Other than that, go out to the rocks, go out to the villages or the spoils out there and find some deeper water for some little more active fish.
yeah, and we got George. He's watching the show. But yeah, the other thing too is now I've been seeing a lot of reports on the grouper bite out of Crystal River.
Mm-hmm. Grouper bite,
how's that?
it is, it's basically on fire. You can go to a couple of the wrecks out there, and you're having to at least hit 20 to 30 feet. There's nothing much shallow right now just because of the warmer water. You may find a few in shallower water, but it seems to be there in the 20 to 30 foot range, or in some of those holes where you've got that deeper, that good depth. But it's real easy is the best way to describe it. You can get out there and catch several gags on some of these rocks and wrecks out there, no problem. So, you know, they shut it down for us, and it kind of hurts, especially in this area, because everybody loves to come here for the shallow water grouper, and we still have not had a report on when they're going to do that. There's a lot of
they were
scuttlebutt.
saying they were going to open up gags in September.
Yeah,
like
and that's
3 days.
yeah, that's again, that's
I mean, why were you
I've
opening it
heard
up?
I've
3
heard
days.
reports from, you know, they're going to give us another 15 days to 10 days to 3 days to 100 days. So I just don't know. It's nothing has been set in stone just yet, but
I mean,
we're hoping. But
Mike, when
I
they
just
open
wish
this
they'd
thing,
open it during the wintertime.
I mean, but when they open it up and they say Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, oh, and we're going to give you 4 weekends. Well, if you got bad weather that weekend, it's it. You know,
Yeah.
you just lost 3 days. And most people don't go Fridays. They got to go Saturday or Sunday because they work for a living. I did that for years. You know, I just look forward for the weekend. And then the weekend, Saturday morning, the weatherman would say, it's going to be blowing 15 to 25. Say, oh my God, all week I waited for this and now I can't go out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was another, somebody had messaged me this week and asked about the apps that I use for trying to determine when to go. Cause you know, they got limited days that they can get out there and go. And, you know, it's just one of those things where you just have to hopefully, you know, that 7-day cycle of fronts coming through, which we really don't have too much in the summertime like we do in the wintertime, but you know, to try to anticipate those fronts coming through, that the weather is going to be good. And I gave them everything I've got. And you know, you roll the dice. Unfortunately, the weatherman is never right. It's the only job that you can be completely 100% wrong and still get paid.
How many times, as he said, it's going to be blowing and all that, you get up and the whole day is beautiful. Then how many days you're all excited because he says, variable 5 to 10 tomorrow. And you say, yeah. And then you get up to the boat ramp and you can't even open the door on the truck because the wind's so strong it won't let you open it up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's something you just have to be completely aware of all the time. When you're out there or when you're planning, the weather is one of those things. And like I said, summertime, not too bad. You know, it's pretty steady, but once that fall hits or the springtime, you know, you've got to just keep watching it because it'll change hour to hour. So it's tough.
And then, you hope you don't get some of this weather because, like, if it rains really hard for 2 or 3 days, well, the grouper doesn't affect it as much. But, like, does Crystal River will have an impact on it with this kind of weather?
Oh, definitely. Up here, because we're so shallow, we could get a cold front come in, say, even these rains, actually, um, some of the rains a couple of weeks ago, just before the rains hit, and we were getting rained on just about daily. And they'd last, an hour or so, but the water temperature went from about 86 down to about 80 degrees with just about 3 or 4 days of rain. It affects us tremendously here. We can get a cold front come through, and it can drop the temperatures 10 to 15 degrees overnight. So we really kind of pay attention to those fronts that come through, because that water temperature drops, these fish just lock up. And you try to adjust in that way. But the only thing I would say, if the cold fronts do come through, the only fish that I would say that increases its appetite would be the trout. Even after a front, the trout tend to love that cooler weather, and they tend to bite a little bit better. But a lot of the redfish, snook, flounder, those type things, they kind of shut down for a couple of days. You got to kind of have to wait until they acclimate to the temperatures.
Like, one of the things I noticed this year uh, is that the mango snapper bite in Tampa Bay isn't as good this year as it was the last couple of years. The last couple of years, it was on fire. I mean, there's mango snapper in the bay right now, but it looks like we're some kind of a cycle. I just don't see that many. And a lot of the places that I used to go and catch a bunch, there's some there, but not many.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good on mangrove snapper. Just load yourself up with some shrimp and just bounce on the rocks out there. They are doing some chumming, so just take your time, do a little chumming out there. Try to get those mangroves out, because a lot of times, and it depends on how you set up on the rocks here, because we're so shallow, you kind of have to know where the rocks are. And what I do is I'll run out to a GPS point, and I'll stay, at least 100 yards away from it, and I'll hit my side scans on, and I'll start circling and just kind of get slowly closer and closer to where I know where the rock is directly, and then position my boat to where we can cast to it. Because if you run up on rocks here, pretty much these fish just kind of scatter and they will disappear. But I will set off those rocks quite a ways with the tide and wind, and just slowly work my way toward the rock if possible, because these fish will know you're there, especially in 6, 7, 8, 10 foot of water. They're attuned to you,
Well,
so you tend to slowly
I think
approach them.
I think the other thing too is I've gone to a lot lighter leader and
Hmm.
longer.
Yeah,
I'm getting. I even tried some 15-pound tests to make it almost 4 foot long, and that seems to help a little bit because these guys. I mean, I think they had binoculars on.
yeah. Well, that, and here we have out there, even at 3 to 5 miles out or 9 miles out, we can have pretty clear water. So definitely, most of my leaders that I fish here anytime is at least 3 to 4 foot at all times, just to kind of, because it's such clear water, it's crystal clear in a lot of those places. So we tend to drop down to 15 pound, 20 pound. We will go up depending on what we're fishing for. A grouper, obviously, we're going to go up a little bit, but yeah, the lighter the leader, the better, and the longer. That way, you don't give your position away, and don't give it away that it's a on a fishing line, that shrimp. So
Right. No, I noticed that. I went down to 20, even 15, and I could see a difference in the bite, but I just don't see the abundance this year on the snapper as I have actually the last 2 or 3 years. It's been unreal. Pull into some
yeah.
places and you can get your limit in 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And some of them were pretty good size. You
Yeah.
know,
And what depth are you looking at?
well, the ones that I'm talking about, I'm catching them in 8 to 10 feet of water. But this year, I've tried a lot of those places, and they're just. I was getting a lot of 15 to 17, some 18 inches the last
Hmm.
couple of years, and yeah, I'm getting one once in a while. but I'm getting a lot of little 10 to 12 inches this year.
Uh,
You know,
yeah, that's a norm here. Everything inshore is too small to do anything with. You definitely have to go offshore here to find the bigger mangroves, unless it's the wintertime. They do tend to come in. There's a few spots like Ozello that you'll still find some decent sized mangrove snapper. But again, Ozello is one of those places that you have to know. It's not very friendly to fiberglass boats or somebody who has no knowledge of going around that area. Pretty nasty.
well, you know that there's a way to learn an area that you're not familiar with, and it's very simple. Every time you hit a rock, you just mark it on your GPS.
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
after a
my
while, you have enough
GPS is
marks,
full of
you know
those.
which way to go, right? After a while, you don't have to worry. You know where all the rocks are at. You might
Yeah,
not have a boat.
you've hit them all. You spent a few $1,000s fixing your boat, but yeah, you've got them all marked.
You got them all marked. In fact, you might be able to sell it to some other people so they don't get their boat banged up.
Yeah,
I, that's why I said, man, where you're at, even you with all the experience that you have, even the guys at Homosassa that they fished there all the time. This year when we were with them in January, a couple of the guys said, you know, Sergio, we do this all the time. We know everywhere. And he said, I tore up a lower unit last
Mhm.
year.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a question of when, never if here. It just happens, and it's just part of the business, part of this area. You just have to be prepared. Either have good insurance or pocket full of money to do the repairs and when they come, because they are going to happen. Too many times, unfortunately. And sometimes out of the blue, where everything's just hunky dory and you should have no problem, and all of a sudden, there you go, you hit something.
I mean,
So
at
it
least where
just
I'm at,
happens.
it's not like in your area or some of these other areas, like Homosassa and all that. I mean, we know that, hey, that, you know, there's an old barge in this point that sticks out and it's underwater. So you know that.
Mhm.
And you know that there's one little area that is a whole bunch of rocks and you almost can see them. But some of these other places, my God, uh, I mean, it's crazy,
Yeah,
you know?
well, and Jim said um, that using the Florida Marine Tracks, which I do have, which does
Yeah.
help me. But I can tell you, there's a couple places, even the Florida Marine Tracks don't necessarily have a track for you. That you just they don't, so you have to try to explore. So sometimes it happens, but even the Florida Marine Tracks, there's a couple places where it tells you to go, and I don't go there because I know what's over there, just at certain different tides. So
Yeah.
it's a great product. Don't get me wrong. It helps in trying to find new areas and navigate, especially in this area. It'll definitely keep you in some safe places. But if you want to explore the backcountry,
Where I'm
you
at
don't have much
inside
to choose
Tampa
from.
Bay, I never don't even turn it on most of the time. But I tell you, man, when you start going down, I go down to Boca Grande, Pine Island, you know, that area, or go up Fort Ritchie, Tarpon Springs. You know, I'm not that familiar with it. Man, it does help a lot. But believe me, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, you know,
And Donald's down there
and
in Fort DeSoto. Hey,
and Donald is at Fort DeSoto camping, and I hope that you're okay because boy, the weather that came through my house, we had 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds. A tornado was just north of us,
wow.
and some of my pine trees, man, they were swinging. You know,
Jeez. Yeah, we didn't get it that bad here. We had a lot of lightning, some rain, but we didn't get it that bad here, thankfully.
yeah, uh, and yeah, and you know, the day I went out with Jim, we went to an area that he goes to. It wasn't marked.
Mhm.
That Florida Marine Tracks didn't have any tracks. It went to a certain point and then it died. It
Yeah.
didn't go any further. But yeah, and probably when they did it, they didn't feel that you had to go any further into where we went.
Yeah.
But maybe they should have. And but you know, he's pretty good. I think he's got 4 captains that does this all the time, and they all have the same boat with. I think it's they're like 24-foot shear water or something like that with a 300 mercury. They draft 15 inches. So,
Yeah.
you know, you have the same, and I guess they just track all this stuff and then they send it into him and he redoes it. And with AI now, they got rid of all the clouds because before you had some areas that when they had it down, there was some clouds around. But now
Yeah.
with AI technology, I mean, every since they updated my chip, everywhere I go, there's no clouds. It's Google Map with with the lines.
Hmm. Yeah, because there's some areas I want to explore a little farther south of Homosassa, which is pretty treacherous. But we're just have to take a day where we're really not fishing. We just take a boat down there and just slowly glide through and try to find a place that we can get to um, certain mangrove islands or certain areas, because there is really no tracks there, and it's pretty treacherous.
Now,
And
do you save your own tracks? Like
I
there's
do when I'm going to new areas, I always save a track. And a lot of times, what I'll try to do is I'll go at low tide. Because if I can get my boat into certain areas at low tide, then I know I can run it at
yeah,
high
you can
tide.
run it at
So
high tide, right?
yeah, and again, it's a slow pace. You just ride down till you feel comfortable of coming off plane, and then you're just idling through. Sometimes just going through trolling motor or just idling through and just looking at the bottom, looking at a safe passage to get to a certain island,
But
and then just
ideally, if
kind
you
of.
have two people on the boat, one guy's up on the bow
Hmm.
and some guy's running the motor, and you just go slow and just hey, and put your tracking on.
Yeah,
And
put the
once you
tracking
figure out,
on.
you save that track for that area, so you have it for next time.
Yeah, because if you go slow enough with your tracking, you can actually hit that, man overboard to mark, where you've seen a rock or anything that looks a little sketchy. So you can kind of know the next time you go there that, you know, that's a place to avoid. And it's always a good area, a good time to do that. I also do that in the wintertime when we have these extremely negative tides up here. I'll go offshore and we'll get up in the tower in the boat, a friend of mine's boat, and we'll just kind of cruise. We know a lot of rocks, but a lot of times you can find those other rocks or those other areas to kind of look for, because the tide is really, really extremely low, and you can see things that normally you wouldn't see. So it's always good to explore in a low tide and as the tide's coming in, because definitely you don't want to go high tide going out, and then you're stuck back there. So
I
always
always
go at
say
low tide first.
the best time to learn an area is in the winter when you have these negative tides. Just go out and look and make your notations, mark it on your GPS and everything else because you'll see things you'll never see except in the middle of the winter with these real extreme low tides.
Mhm.
It might be an oyster bed that all the rest of the year might have a foot of water on top of it, even at low tide. Well,
Right.
guess what? That could be a real hot redfish spot.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a big, when I go scouting for new areas, is pretty much what I do. I go during the low tide. I may take a rod or not. Sometimes I don't even take a fishing rod. I just go out there and I'm concentrating on plotting a way to get to certain areas. I'm looking for fish. I'm looking for activity, seeing what's around. And, depending on the weather, if it's wintertime, I know there's not going to be any fish up there, but at least I know maybe during the spring or summer, this area looks pretty good and I'll go explore it then. But at least I have a track there so that when the timing is right and when I think there should be fish there, I've got a track. I can get in there. I can see if there's some fish, and it takes away a lot of the guessing work, uh, taking those days to just go out there and explore.
But just
Um,
think about it. That's how you find these little oyster bars, a little pothole that maybe is, you got a foot of water or 15 inches of water, extreme low tide, but this one little hole is 3 foot deep or 2.5 foot deep
mhm.
and decent size. Well, just think about it. Later on in the summer, you got a falling tide. Those fish are going to go into that hole.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The holes are a big thing for me here. Not only, especially wintertime when we've got those low tides and those fish will congregate in those holes, and I can fish those, but as well, hey, those are takeoff points. The way I look at it, when you've got a tide that's running out, you're in the backcountry, you happen to find a hole and you've got enough to run, you can jump out of those holes or come into a place, especially low tide, because I love to fish. I love to be the first boat in to the mangroves. That's one of my things that I'd love to do when I can time it right and I can be the first boat up in there. I'll use those holes and run and find those holes that are close to where I want to fish, and I'll drop down in those holes so I'm not hitting my skeg. So you can use those holes to your advantage, not only fishing, but taking off and coming into those areas. That way, you know, your skeg or the bottom of your boat is safe.
Yeah. And like what Jim Pace was saying too, is you'll see oyster bars, for example, these oyster beds that I know they're there, but with the extreme low tide, you can actually see where the current has made these trenches that you won't see the rest of the year. Although you know the oyster bar is there, that just visually, now you can understand, hey, I know where I need to start casting later on in the year because I can see how the current is running. I can see where it goes from 18 inches of water down to about 2 feet around this point of the oyster bar because you know, the trench has been dug out. And if that's how you learn and you be able to get some of these, you know, better fish.
Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, it doesn't take, you know, finding a hole or finding a ditch is what I've called it, or a little area where it's been kind of gouged out by the tide. It doesn't take a whole lot, you know, as far as depth for that to happen. It could be as simple as 3 to 4 inches deeper than everywhere else. If you've got a real flat area and you've got a hole that's, you know, 3 to 4 inches deeper than everywhere else, you know, fish, redfish, trout, everything else, they're only about 3 to 4 inches tall, you know, widthwise. So a lot of times that's all it takes for them to kind of sit in there and be comfortable enough, be hiding, to ambush any prey that comes by. So it doesn't have to be extreme in order to be productive.
Now, you know what? We better go ahead. Let's get Tony Franklin's fishing report in.
All right, Captain Tony Franklin back with you once again with this week's fishing report. This week, trout remains the #1 top candidate for biting well. The trout, spotted sea trout, the silver trout, all biting real well. Once again, 6 to 8 feet of water. Make sure you got some grassy areas underneath you. That's the biggest key. Located in these same areas, we're catching Spanish mackerel. We're also catching Spanish mackerel around range markers, also around shoals, sandy shoals that lead to deeper water. Also, there's a mangrove snapper around the bridges. They're also around the range markers we talked about, any kind of rocky formation. So the mangrove snapper bite has really been good. Real small pinfish is working the best for them, or real small sardines. Been some snook around this week, primarily tucked way up under the mangroves, and they have been picky, but we have hooked some this week, but they were kind of touchy this week. There's been a few redfish around, most of them up high under the mangroves. You got to get that bait way up under the mangroves again this week, and that's been the same scenario for the last couple of weeks. There's been bonnethead sharks around, been some black tips around, ladyfish around, so there's decent action. Put some time in, get out on the water, try some different things. Once again, the key is fish early with this heat. So that's my advice for this week. That's my report for this week. Tight lines, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks,
And,
Tony.
hey, Mike, I got a little thing here that I pulled out of the internet that they sent to me. It was a study that was done in Louisiana about you know, the netting of menhaden and the effect that it's had on the fishing. And for example, you know, that they when they're catching all these menhadens, they're catching all these porgies too, which are big big food for those big redfish that are out there, you know, in the Louisiana area.
Right.
And one of the things they said that the bycatch when they're catching the menhaden is they kill a lot of these porgies, and a lot of the redfish are caught because they're feeding on the porgies and the menhaden. And although, you know, they try to release them pretty quick, but they pull those nets for a while. 17% of all the redfish released from these nets die. And, you know, and you're talking about thousands of pounds. And they were also saying that, let's see,
Did they give a certain size of what are dying, or was it just?
No, they're the pretty good size because they're eating. They're the spawners because they're eating those big porgies.
No, so they are the bigger ones.
Yeah. Now it says the study focused on the 2024 Menhaden fishing season, during which the reduction industry made 13,144 net sets, and that was a low number. Okay, think about that. Those nets were put out 13,144 times when compared to an average set by the industry in recent years. But just over 3% of the sets made, 418 of the 13,000, they're also a combination of direct. And basically what it's saying is that they kill a lot of redfish doing this. They kill a lot of these little porgies because they're eating on the Menhaden. And of course, when you kill them, that reduces the population. The redfish goes down. And, Louisiana's, although they do a good job and everything else, and it's actually not porgies. I said porgies. They're the Atlantic croakers. But, they're just saying, even them, if they're not careful, they're going to hurt their industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You can't just overdo it, guys.
It's a balance. And I don't know that we've hit that balance just yet as far as the fishing industry. Because, we'll go after certain, like shrimp here. We have the good days and we have the bad days, but some of the bycatch on that tends to hurt the other fish and the fisheries that rely on those baits and everything else, that the shrimpers are going after the shrimp, but you have all the bycatch. And I don't know that there's an easy solution for that. And the only other thing that's unfortunately what happens, and we see it on a regular basis, is that they just start cutting the seasons or banning the harvesting of them. And I get it that we have to save our oceans as much as possible, but I don't know what the solution would be on that, because
I guess my
commercial guys have to survive as well.
Yeah, I guess my problem is that, we need to be fair with everybody. But if you're telling me that, hey, we got a problem, let's say with speckled trout, we got to do something. We got to cut way back or maybe close it for a while. All right. But what about the commercial guy?
Mm-hmm.
He still goes out and catches trout.
Yeah.
They cut his quota down some, but now they're telling us you can't keep any, but they're still going out and catching them.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to do something and you say, hey, close it for a year, close it to everybody for a year. Nobody. Let the whole stock come back.
Yeah. But,
I just don't believe some of these reports. And I've read a lot of articles where people say, you wonder where Noah and some of these people get this information. Do they pull it out of their hat or somebody just pulling somebody's leg? But, when they tell me that the weekend guy fishing for grouper catches 6-7 times more than the commercial guy grouper fishing at the end of the year, that's a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah.
Because think about it. The average grouper guy only goes out on the weekends, unless he's on vacation. And how many weekends do you have bad weather that a lot of people can't go out? So how can you tell me that in Florida, the recreational grouper guys that can only go out on the weekends can catch 6 to 7 times more total tonnage of fish than the commercial guys that are there 7 days a week, week after week?
Yeah, I don't know how they come up with those numbers. I mean, other than, they do take a boat out and do some census type work as far as catching fish in certain areas and certain places and stuff. But I don't see that happening on the commercial side either. They have certain limits that they allow the commercials side to do. But I also know that, for red snapper grouper, I don't know what their size limits are as well. I mean, when you have long lines and you're pulling all these grouper and these fish from these depths coming up, most of these are bug-eyed or bloated, and you don't see them too many times throwing back the smaller ones. They tend to keep just about everything that happens. on those long lines that come in. So, I don't know. Is there too many lobbyists for the commercial side in
Well,
politics?
you just touched on something there. Think about this: is these longliners. Those fish are either almost dead or dead. Some of them by the time they bring them in.
Mhm.
So if your size limit is a 24-inch grouper, and they got a whole bunch of 18, 20 inches that died, they throw them back in.
Yeah.
Well, those aren't counted as
No.
part of their tonnage because they didn't bring them in, correct? So
Correct.
let's say, for Pete's sake, 10% of what they do every day, it goes back to the bottom. And it could be a heck of a lot more than that.
Right.
Well, look at the end of the year, the tonnage.
Mhm.
So you know what? We better get some more of these reports in before we run out of time. Let's get Michael Dawson in. We better get some of these in, or we're going to run out of time.
Hi guys, Captain Michael Dawson here at Patriot Guides. I was here with this week's fishing report. So one of the main things going on in our area this week that everyone's been talking about and shooting our area for has been scallop season. Opening on Thursday the 10th for us, it has been a great start to the season. Scallops are plentiful, and it's been a great time to be out there. It's a great time to be out in the water. Make sure you have your dive flag, mask, snorkel, fins, anti-fog, some of the minor equipment you need. That dive flag is going to be your very important life-saving device there. Try to stay within 100 feet of the boat, even though legally you have that 300 feet. But stay within 100 feet, be safe out there, be smart. Scallops have been found everywhere from Anclo Key. Water's a little dirty out there right now. North of the river, there's still a bunch of scallops there, but water's dirty. We've been running north, going off the Hudson area. Water's very clean out there and super easy on the scallops. But if you just want to take it slow and take it nearby the Anclo boat ramp, really any of the flats nearby have had a bunch of scallops on them. Besides the scallops, the redfish bite has gone into full swing right now. There's a couple schools of redfish in our area that have 150 to 3,000 fish. Some of the biggest schools I've seen in a long time in our area. Cut bait's been the key. Throw a piece of cut pinfish, cut grunt, cut mullet, cut ladyfish, anything stinky and cut on the bottom. And these fish have been picking it up pretty quick. Get out there early morning, late evening. The middle of the day is a little tough out there with it being so hot and so humid. So be out there first thing in the morning, so last thing in the evening. Higher tide's been no barrel chances too. I've been liking the incoming tide. It's been bringing some fresh oxygenated water in while the outgoing has been the opposite. So get out there, have a good time, watch out for scallopers. Try to run south when you leave the river if you're going fishing, just to avoid all the scallopers. But it's been great out there. Captain Michael Dawson, Patriotic Guide Service.
All right, now let's get Scotty Rowe, Hota.
Hello everybody, this is Captain Scotty Rose, Charlotte Harbor, Florida. Definitely been some great fishing out there, but we are transitioning from dry season to rainy season. The rivers are starting to flow a little bit. We're starting to see that real dark brown water, which is no problem. The only thing it does change is in the mornings we got to make a little extra run for bait because the bait fish don't like that lower salinity in the upper harbor. So we'll make that 10-15 mile run in the morning out to the coast, get bait, come back, pick up our charters and fish for the day. But what that dark water does do is makes for some beautiful golden fish. I mean, the trout, the redfish, the snook, they turn that dark bronze and copper color. It's absolutely spectacular and beautiful. But the fish biting, no problem there. Snook galore, all you want. A lot of small ones, but you weed through them, you get a good one here and there. Definitely seen an uptick in the redfish, which is very, very cool. And that usually happens late summer, fall here in Charlotte Harbor, where we get a big uptick in redfish. Trout bite, if you're out there in Bull Turtle Bay, no issue there. You probably catch all you want. Up here in the upper harbor, it's just a few here, a few there on the trout. Mangrove snapper scattered around, no problem there. Juvenile tarpon in some of the canals are absolutely spectacular and fun. Those little 10, 20, 30 pounders, we're having fun with those. And other fish that shows up here in Charlotte Harbor, July, August, September is usually the best time we get them, was those big black drum. and they can be anywhere from 30, 40, 50 pounds. We're having fun with those. And you talk about making some kids smile when you get on some of those. That's a lot of fun. And yes, you know, the Boca Grande Pass tarpon thing is kind of ended, but we're starting to see some of those big tarpon, as they usually do in the late summer and fall, flooding into the harbor. And Bait Busters is one of the best baits for them, or if you can get some live ladyfish, threadfin. So we've got all kinds of good fun going on down here in Charlotte Harbor. The bite is really, really good. And tight lines, everybody. Come on down to Charlotte Harbor and we'll go catch them up. We'll talk at y'all later.
All right, let's get let's get Jessica on. So then we're gonna have Mike at the very end so he can elaborate on his.
Hey guys, it's Captain Jessica Hanovic with You'll Hook 'em Charters. I haven't done much fishing this week. I had a couple of trips for scallops. The scallops seem to be what's popping right now. They're in about 4 to, I guess, 6, 7 feet. I won't be getting out much fishing this week. We're taking a vacation to ICAST and stuff. Maybe I'll take a video at ICAST with something cool. I hope you get out. Best time for fishing, I would believe right now, is early mornings or late afternoons. Tight lines.
I'm pre-fishing for a slam tournament in Mississippi. It's a weigh-in. And man, I would love to find this guy on Saturday. Look how fat he is. Holy smokes. All right, back in the water for you.
Wow. That's a beast.
You can stay in the water.
That is a beast. I can't believe it either.
Wow. Anybody got a camera?
Wow. I'm gonna cut him.
Hi, welcome. This is Pam, your kayak angler. I want to talk a little bit about my trip to Mississippi. It was a saltwater qualifier, same type of fish that we're catching here, used some of the same tactics. Was redfish, trout, and flounder. Little tackle talk here. One of my best lures for flounder is the Gulp Swimming Minnow 4-inch. I do like the pearl color, and the Chartreuse DOA short shank jig head. I never miss a flounder out. It's one of the best lures you can get out there. And also, with the water being as hot as it is, slow everything down. If you're used to using a 1/4 ounce jig head, maybe go to an 1/8 and slow your retrieve down. So after that, I ended up top 10, 9th overall, so I felt really good about that. Then headed back over to Tampa and went offshore with Barb and Brandon, the captain, on the Salty Dog. We limited out on our red grouper and red snapper. Simple search rig. If y'all want some information on that, be happy to show you how to put that together. And to top it off, last drop, Barb landed a monster shark. It was really fun to watch her reel it in. It was her first big shark. So if you have any questions, holler at me. I'll be happy to answer them. Take care. Until next time.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Jessica. And now
Thanks,
let's
guys.
put on the drum roll. Mike Haynes Fishing Report.
Good evening, everybody. Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida. Well, it's scallop season, and so far this season has been very, very good. Compared to our last few years, it's kind of been off, but this year we've finally got a good year, and the limits are being caught quite easily, especially even for 6 people. It's 10 gallons per boat, 2 gallons per person. So just to kind of get you that information, try not to go over. But the scalloping just been really good. The sizes have been good. The water temperature is really nice. The thunderstorms haven't been there in the afternoon. So it's been a real pleasant time to get out there and do some scalloping. Please, if you get some small ones, please throw those back so we can continue this for next year. We're in a good year. Hopefully we can continue and only take what you will eat, please. That's the only way we're going to sustain these scallops out here for years to come. Fishing has been pretty good. The waters are warm. You can find the redfish schools up in the shallows around the mangroves, but when it's low tide or lower tide and really not a high tide, these fish are in schools out on the flats. And the best thing to do is if you got a tower or something where high on your boat, just put your trolling motor on and just start circling islands, going to look for places that are lighter spots. Seems to be that these fish are kind of moving around here and there, but when you do find a school, just kind of lock it down and see if you can fish them. They're there and they're in pretty decent schools. You just have to locate the schools first. Otherwise, you can wait for high tide and bang the bushes, but it's been productive, but not real steady either. So you may have to hop around to one island to the other to really find them. But every once in a while, you'll get into a school that's underneath those mangroves and you're good to go. The other thing that we do, of course, in the summertime when it's hot like this, we'll go out to our rocks and reefs that we have out there, anywhere between 3 to 9 miles out or even farther. And so far, the mangrove snapper grunts have been really, really good. They've been on the rocks quite heavily right now. So you can get out there and get you some grunts and get you some mangrove snapper along with that redfish and maybe some scallops and just make a whole day of it. It's been pretty good. Using shrimp, obviously, down there on the reefs and rocks for redfish, using pinfish or cut bait like ladyfish, cut mullet. Those all seem to be working pretty well. And it does seem on the redfish, just to let you know, it does seem you're getting a better bite on the cut bait than you are on live. Not sure why that is. Just one of those things that they tend to kind of change up a little bit. Water clarity is still pretty good out there. There is some stained water from Crystal River down south toward Mangrove Point and almost to Long Point on the mangrove side. So a little dirtier water. Sometimes that dirtier water helps. Get up into those bushes, get that dirtier water, put that bait in there, and sometimes you'll get a better bite that direction instead of having to find the clear water, spooking them if they're underneath there if you get too close to the boat. So just a little tidbit of information, a little tongue-tied. But this is Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike, I got a question for you. When you commit, where are you cleaning the scallops? Right there at the shoreline, or?
Well, there are a couple of places. Pete's Pier, they have some girls that are set up that will clean your scallops for you. I think they charge around $20 or so for a 5-gallon bucket.
How
and
much?
they'll clean them. Yeah, they'll clean them. And depending on how many they get, you may get them back that night or you may get them the following day. But they'll get all of your information and do it that way. Otherwise, you can clean them there at the any of the ramps or marinas. Just make sure, please, in any of our rivers, please do not throw the shells in the water. If you're going to clean them out there in the salt water before you come in, or clean them at the boat ramps and throw those shells in the garbage. These shells do not break down in the fresh water. And one of the biggest, we've got signs everywhere, almost as the Crystal River with the Coochie. What happens is those shells get down on the bottom and the grass, it kind of keeps the grass from growing. It's almost like mulch. So it damages our ecosystem down there with the grass. So definitely throw those shells away in the garbage cans.
Are you saving some shells for next year?
Yeah, I do.
June 6th next year.
Yeah, no worries. I'll try to bring a little more orange ones this time. For some reason, we're catching a lot more orange ones out there this year. It's just one of those weird anomalies for scallops. Sometimes you'll get a bright orange one, and we call them the gold ones, kind of like treasure hunting. There's nothing special about them. They're just different, but everybody loves to find those little orange ones.
Well, I think the kids just really loved them. You know,
Yeah.
When you guys did that at the kids clinic that we do every year. And it's just, you know, when you're talking about scalloping and all that, you can talk all you want, but boy, when the kid can grab a couple of scallop shells and take it with them, I think,
Yeah.
you know, that really kind of gets them excited.
It does. And so I know some people who take them home and they'll use them for decorations or make chimes out of them. So, I mean, they're a neat shell, and it can be used for many things. I know some people who actually crush them up, use them in the bottom of plants. So, they're definitely beneficial, and they do have a use in some ways other than just throwing back in the water.
One time, and they used to use them crush them on for driveways.
Yeah, put them on
years ago.
driveways, crush them up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take you quite a number of years to catch enough to put your driveway that way, but hey.
Hey, what can I tell you? Well, I think you did a great job tonight, Mike. And
Thank you. Appreciate
it's
it.
gonna
Thanks
get
for
better.
having me on board.
Yeah, and I know that we're working on Jessica was kind of thinking about coming on board with us, but she's not quite ready. So we're looking for a female angler or captain that wants to be the third co-host in our show, because I think it'll be good to have a woman's point of view, a lady's point of view, a female angler's point of view on what's going on too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It always brings a different perspective in that way. But a lot of times, I mean, some of my female captains here I'm friends with, and we fish, and they're just as diehard as we are. There's no differences in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes they do things that just a little bit different than I do, and I'm going, why didn't I think of that? So sometimes that perspective helps.
We're always learning. Remember that.
That's it.
So, let's say thank you to everybody. Don't forget, tell your friends, put the word out, for the West Coast Fishing Report every Monday night, 7 to 8 o'clock. Captain Mike Haynes and myself and somebody. And we're going to have a special guest starting next month. So many people are on vacation now that it's tough, but
yeah, we
got a very interesting guy coming on board next month. That's for you guys that like the bottom fish. You're not going to want to miss this show. It's going to be really good. So we'll let you know more about it later on. So God bless everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Tight line.